Hello, good people. Francine here. Now, just when we thought it was safe enough to get back in the water, here comes Omicron. Hello again. So I want to take a minute just to welcome everybody to the channel today, Earthen Sojourner. And if this is your first time visiting, I want to encourage you to hit the subscribe button so that you can stay in touch. So I wanted to talk a little bit today about a couple things. One of them is the new variant that has been identified as it relates to COVID, and that's called Omicron. Now, I wonder, how do they come up with these names? But I did a little bit of research, and it looks like the WHO, in an attempt to reduce confusion and not put value on the different names as to how good or how bad something might be, they've chosen to use the letters of the Greek alphabet. And Omicron is the 15th letter of the Greek alphabet, just in case you were wondering. It does sound a bit futuristic, like Decepticons or Triceracon, some cross between dinosaurs and whatever those cars are and Transformers. So kind of an interesting sounding name. And right now, they really don't know a lot, like whether or not this variant is going to be any worse, any more contagious, going to make people sicker, and they probably won't know for a couple more weeks. But here's what we do know. We do know that as Black people, we are literally the canaries in the coal mine. We do know that what happens around Omicron, we're going to see in the BIPOC community. So like I said, just when we thought it was safe, things were starting to open up. We thought we could go back in the water, get on planes, go to the theater and to concerts, holidays coming up. Here comes Omicron. So although we don't know yet whether it's more highly infectious or makes you sicker, there's a couple things that we do know generally about COVID and Black people. Now, as of March of 2021, which is when they stopped doing some of the data collection, that at that time, among 15% of all deaths related to COVID were African Americans or were Black people. That was actually down from 31% in 2020. So again, things were getting better, although overall that rate is about 13%. And so for Black people, it was still a little bit higher because we are the canaries in the coal mine. And for all the other reasons, that we know that we are more likely to work in sectors where we are serving a large amount of people. We may live in more congested housing conditions, whether that's, not necessarily our personal house and space, but, we might live in apartment complexes that just house more people. We may live in larger cities where just the population density is increased. So the potential for us to have more exposure is certainly there. We also know that, we had vaccination hesitation. I imagine that at least every one of us knows at least one Black person or has one family member who is not going to get vaccinated. And as we continue to get further and further into the pandemic, I also imagine that every Black person knows at least one person or has at least one family member that sadly has died from COVID. And, although there are certainly the physical consequences, including death of COVID on Black people, we cannot underestimate or sort of bury under the rug the amount of financial and spiritual and emotional repercussions of the virus. It has definitely taken a toll in all of those areas, not just for people of color, but when you are the canary in the coal mine, you feel it first. You feel it first. You feel it firsthand. So sadly, sometimes some of the statistics aren't really encouraging, and so I just want to encourage us to really to be informed, to look where you get your statistics and your information about COVID and how it's impacting you from. But to also be diligent and to do what you need to do to take care of yourself physically, financially, emotionally, and spiritually until we can safely go back into the water. So I'm switching topics here, even though I want to tell you that there's a connection. I hope you're able to figure out what the connection is. But my next topic is about SCOTUS. So you may have heard that SCOTUS, the Supreme Court, heard oral arguments on December 1st of Dobbs versus Jackson Women's Health Organization. And this is a challenge potentially to Roe v. Wade, the court case decided in 1973 that made abortion a legal and fundamental right for folks seeking that service in the U.S. So this particular court case is dealing with the constitutionality of a Mississippi state law that banned abortion after the first 15 weeks of pregnancy. I listened to the oral arguments, and it was very clear during those arguments and in the analysis by legal scholars afterwards that there is a very clear tell from 2 to 3 of the justices right away that their intention is really to find a way to overturn Roe and to make abortion illegal. And here's the connection, people. Again, we're the canaries in the coal mine. Black women and women of color are going to be the first to feel the impact of abortion bans. So I realized that today I decided to talk about 2 things that may cause some controversy on my YouTube channel. One being COVID. There's such polarization about, COVID and vaccines, and the other being about abortion. And we know that there's incredible polarization and divisiveness about whether or not a person should be able to decide to parent or not to parent. Did you know that for the last 6 years, there has been an abortion case before the Supreme Court? For 6 years in a row. So when I talk about the canaries in the coal mine as it relates to abortion and reproductive health care, we ought to know. We were the first to die. We were not going to be able to go to other countries when abortion was illegal. And we also were very rarely able to find a physician that would, or someone who was skilled and trained that would perform the procedure safely for us. And so we often resorted to whatever means necessary. I don't foresee that changing. So the truth is that Black women's bodies and their sexual and reproductive health has been in jeopardy for decades, and there have been attempts to control it since the inception of this country. Consider that at one point in time we were seen as vessels to perpetuate the institution of slavery and slave labor. And so whether or not you as an individual think abortion is right or wrong, or would make that choice to have an abortion, it's important to realize that the policing of Black bodies has got to stop. However they're being policed, whether it's about the right to take or to decline to take a vaccination. I'm a little surprised that we can really get up in arms about that and not get up in arms about the right to parent or not to parent. If you can't control your fertility and the size of your family, you really don't have a lot of financial or emotional control either. When I hear the cries, my body, my choice as it relates to taking the COVID vaccine or not, I'm surprised, because not that that isn't important and isn't about life and death, but I'd like us to be shouting just as loudly my body and my choice about whether or not I'm going to parent and have children. Bodily autonomy is critical. And as long as systemic racism is built into the very fabric and institutions of our healthcare and our legal and judicial system, we're going to continue to be the canaries in the mine. There's a few reasons that we are the canaries in the coal mine, and that bans like abortion bans disproportionately harm Black women. First and most critical is that Black women are 3 times more likely to die in childbirth as white people. Yes, here in the United States, with technology, what we think of as great hospitals and obstetrics programs, Black maternal morbidity is still astounding. Although there are less Black people than in previous years who are uninsured, there are many who still continue to be without health insurance or underinsured. And many policies will not pay for reproductive health care, especially those that may be associated with a Catholic institution or hospital or the federal government. So there are financial challenges that impact disproportionately people of color seeking reproductive health care services. The fact that you can't bring anyone with you. If you needed to, you didn't have child care arrangements and would have needed to bring, a child to a physician's appointment. In most places, you're unable to do that anymore. You're not even able to bring a support person. Some places may have limited hours and times and days for appointments. And so you have to be able to get off during those times. You can't really pick and choose in this pandemic season. So the stakes are really pretty high. SCOTUS will issue a decision they expect around June, and we'll see what happens. Leave a comment and let me know how you might be impacted or not if the SCOTUS decision reverses the Roe versus Wade decision of 1973. Love to hear what people are thinking about these couple of issues. Comment below and hit subscribe.